The Zephrian battle fleet moved through space like a pack of hunting wolves. 200 ships spread across the dark void, their black metal hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. Each ship was a masterpiece of war technology, built for one purpose only, to conquer and destroy. Admiral Kethmor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dark Spear. His 4 yellow eyes scanned the star charts displayed before him. This was his 18th campaign of conquest. 17 times before, he had led fleets like this one to victory. 17 alien worlds now served the Zephrian Empire. Today would make it 18. The target was a small system with a yellow star. The aliens called it Sol. Intelligence report said the creatures living there called themselves humans. They were new to space travel, barely able to move between their own planets. Their technology was primitive. Their weapons were weak. It should be an easy victory. "Admiral," called Commander Vextel from his station. His 6 arms moved quickly over the control panels. "We are approaching the outer edge of the target system. Sensors are beginning their sweep." Kethmor nodded. This was always his favorite part. The moment when the enemy first realized they were doomed. Most species panicked when they saw a Zephrian war fleet. Some tried to run, some tried to hide. A few tried to fight. None had ever succeeded. The Zephrians had perfected the art of conquest over 1,000 years. They studied their enemies carefully. They learned their weaknesses. They struck without mercy. The galaxy had learned to fear the sight of Zephrian ships. "Sir," Vextel's voice carried a note of confusion, "I am detecting something strange." "What is it?" Kethmor moved closer to the sensor display. "There's a single ship out there. It appears to be waiting for us." Kethmor's eyes widened. In all his years of warfare, no enemy had ever sent just one ship to meet an invasion fleet. It made no sense. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life. There, hanging in the darkness of space, was a small vessel. It was maybe 1/10 the size of a Zephrian destroyer. Its hull was gray metal with strange markings painted on the sides. It looked crude compared to their sleek warships. "What are they doing?" asked Vextel. "I have no idea," Kethmor replied. "Scan the ship. I want to know everything about it." The sensors went to work. Data flowed across the screens. The human ship was built from simple metal alloys. Its power source was some kind of fusion reactor. Its weapons were basic projectile launchers and energy beams. Everything about it seemed primitive. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "the ship is sending us a message, and sir ... They are speaking our language." Kethmor felt his stomach tighten. How did these humans know Zephrian? Put it on screen. The image changed to show the inside of the human ship. A strange creature stood in the center of what looked like their command bridge. It walked on 2 legs and had only 2 arms. Its skin was a pale pink color. Hair grew only on the top of its head. Most disturbing of all, it had only 2 eyes, both facing forward like a predator. When the creature spoke, its voice was calm and steady. "Greetings, Zephrian fleet. I am Captain Sarah Chun of the Terran vessel Defiant. You are entering human space without permission. Please tell us why you are here." The bridge fell silent. Kethmor stared at the human captain. She showed no fear, no panic, no desperate pleading for mercy. She spoke as if she was in control of the situation. "Open a channel," Kethmor ordered. "Let me speak to this creature." The communication link activated. Kethmor's image now appeared on the human ship's screens. He drew himself up to his full height using his most commanding voice. "I am Admiral Kethmor of the Zephrian Empire. Your species will surrender to our rule or be destroyed. This is not a request. It is an order." The human captain did not move. Her face showed no emotion. "I see, and how many other species have you given this same choice?" 17 civilizations have learned to bow before Zephrian power. You will be the 18th. Captain Chen tilted her head slightly. It was a gesture that somehow made Kethmor uncomfortable. "I do not think you understand what you are dealing with, Admiral. We are humans. We do not bow to anyone." Something about the way she said it made Kethmor pause. In his experience, weaker species either begged for mercy or tried to sound tough when they were really scared. This human did neither. She spoke with quiet confidence, as if she knew something he did not. You command one small ship against my entire fleet, Kethmer continued. Your weapons are weak. Your armor is thin, your numbers are pathetic. Tell me why you think you can resist us, the human captain smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of something dangerous. Because, Admiral, you have never fought humans before. We have an old saying on our world, never corner a wounded animal. You have just cornered 7 billion humans. She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. I am going to give you one chance to leave. Turn your fleet around and go back. Where you came from, leave our space and never return. This is the only warning you will get. The communication link went dead. The bridge fell silent again. Kethmer stared at the dark screen, trying to understand what had just happened. No primitive species had ever spoken to him like that. No enemy had ever been so calm in the face of certain defeat. Sir, his tactical officer spoke up, should we begin the attack? No, Kethmer said slowly. Something is wrong here. No species. Sends one ship to threaten an invasion fleet. Begin deep scans of the system. I want to know what we are really facing. Sir, should we not just destroy the human ship and proceed? Kethmer considered this. It would be the normal procedure. But something about this situation felt different. The human captain had been too confident. Too calm, there had to be more. To this, no, scan first, then we decide. The fleet sensors reached deeper into the Sol system. What they found made every officer on the bridge go silent. The system was not defenseless. Far from it. Hidden weapons platforms filled the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets. Each one was the size of a small warship. Energy readings showed they packed enough firepower to damage even Zephrian cruisers. The 3rd planet, Earth, was surrounded by massive space stations. These were not simple outposts. They were fortress stations, each one armed with weapons that could threaten capital ships, but it was the outer system that truly shocked them. Huge structures hung in space near the gas giant planets. They were not ships or stations, they were factories. Manufacturing plants the size of moons, all working at full capacity. What are they building? Vextel whispered. The answer came soon enough. New contacts began appearing on the sensors. Ships, lots of ships. They were emerging from hiding places throughout the system. Dozens became hundreds. Hundreds became thousands. Each new ship that appeared was larger than the last. Their energy. Signatures were massive. Their armor was thick. Their weapons were unlike anything the Zephrians had ever seen. Sir, the communications officer said in a shaky voice, we are receiving transmissions from all over the fleet. Every ship is reporting the same thing. Human vessels are appearing everywhere. The tactical display updated in real time. Red dots. Marking enemy ships spread across the screen like a disease. Soon there were more red dots than blue ones. Then twice as many. Then 10 times as many. Captain Chin's face appeared on the screen again, but now she was not alone. The bridge behind her showed dozens of other humans, all working at control. Stations, all calm already. Admiral Kethmer, she said, her voice still steady. I told you that you had never fought humans before. Let me explain what makes us different from all the other species you have conquered. The image split to show the human ship Defiant, but now it was not alone. Massive human warships flanked it on both sides. Ships that dwarfed even Zephrian battle cruisers. Every species you have defeated developed space travel for exploration, for trade, for peaceful expansion. We developed it for war. Kethmer felt his breathing become difficult. This is impossible. Our intelligence said you were primitives. Your intelligence was 50 years out of date, Chun replied. We have been watching your empire expand for half a century. We studied your ships. We learned your tactics. We discovered your weaknesses. We prepared for this moment. The main screen shifted to show images from across the Sol system. Human ships were everywhere. Not just warships, but massive carriers launching fighters by the thousands. Support. Vessels the size of cities. Weapons platforms that could destroy entire fleets. You see, Admiral, we humans learned something long ago. If you want peace, you must prepare for war. We have been preparing for this war since the day we learned your empire existed. This cannot be real, Kethmore said, but his voice lacked conviction. Oh, it is very real, Captain Chun assured him. You wanted to add humanity to your collection of conquered species. Instead, you found something else. You found the species that evolution created to destroy species like yours. Warning alarms began sounding throughout the Zephrian fleet. Human ships were moving into attack positions. The hunters had become the hunted. We do not fight wars. Like other species, Admiral, Chun continued, other species fight to defend their homes. We fight to eliminate threats permanently. When we are done with your fleet, we will know everything about your technology, everything about your tactics, everything about your weaknesses. A new contact appeared on the sensors. Something massive was emerging from behind Earth's moon. It was a ship, but calling it a ship seemed inadequate. It was a mobile fortress, bristling with enough weapons to level a continent. That is our flagship, the Ragnarok, Chun explained. We built it for this exact purpose. It carries enough firepower to destroy your entire fleet. We have 11 more just like it. Kethmore's legs went weak. The greatest war fleet in Zephrian history was outnumbered, outgunned, and completely surrounded. They had walked into a trap 50 years in the making. You have two choices, Admiral, Captain Chun said. You can surrender and be taken as prisoners of war, or you can fight and die. But understand this, no matter what you choose, your empire will learn what happens when someone threatens humanity. The communication link closed, leaving the Zephrian bridge in stunned silence. Outside, human ships moved like sharks circling wounded prey. The invasion fleet that had conquered 17 worlds was about to become the prey. Admiral Kethmore looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. For the first time in his long military career, he saw fear in their eyes. Real, honest terror. They had not found a primitive species to conquer. They had found humanity, and humanity was ready for war. Admiral Kethmore stared at the tactical display with growing horror. The red dots representing human ships continued to multiply across his screens. What had started as empty space was now filled with an armada that dwarfed his own fleet. His officers worked frantically at their stations, trying to count the enemy vessels, but the numbers kept climbing. Sir, Commander Vextal reported, his voice shaking. Final count shows over 3,000 human ships. And sir, they are still appearing. 3,000 ships. Kethmore had brought 200 of the finest warships in the Zephrian Empire. Ships that had never known defeat. Ships that had conquered 17 civilizations. Now they faced odds of 15-1 against an enemy they knew nothing about. How is this possible? Whispered the tactical officer. Our scouts reported a primitive species, single planet, basic technology. Captain Chin's image appeared on the main screen again. Behind her, the bridge of the human ship buzzed with activity. Humans moved with calm efficiency, preparing for battle with the same casual attitude they might use to prepare dinner. Admiral, Chun said, her voice still maddeningly calm. I can see the confusion on your face. Let me explain how we managed to surprise you so completely. The screen split to show images of human space, but it was not what the Zephrians had expected. Instead of a single world with primitive colonies, they saw a vast network of fortified systems. Massive space stations orbited every planet. Asteroid belts had been turned into weapons platforms. Even the moons bristled with defensive installations. 50 years ago, our deep space sensors detected your empire, Chun continued. We watched as you conquered the Altarians. We studied how you destroyed the Centauri Republic. We learned from every species you defeated. New images flashed across the screen. Human factories working around the clock. Shipyards the size of Small planets churning out warships. Entire worlds dedicated to weapons production. We realized that first contact with your empire would not be peaceful. So we prepared. Every human colony became a fortress. Every human ship became a weapon of war. Every human citizen became a soldier. Kethmore felt sick. The Zephrian Empire prided itself on intelligence gathering. How had they missed preparations on this scale? Your spies were very good, Chun said, as if reading his thoughts. They reported exactly what we wanted them to see. A peaceful species focused on exploration and trade. A single world with small colonies, primitive weapons and defenses. The image changed to show human facilities hidden inside asteroids, entire fleets concealed within gas giant atmospheres, weapons platforms disguised as research stations. We have been fighting wars for 3,000 years, Admiral. We know how to hide our true strength. We know how to make our enemies see only what we want them to see. A new voice spoke from somewhere off-screen on the human bridge. Captain, all ships report ready for combat. Awaiting your orders. Captain Chin nodded. Thank you, Commander. Hold position for now. She turned back to face the Zephrian Admiral. You have about 30 seconds to make a decision, Admiral. Surrender or fight. But know this, if you choose to fight, none of your ships will leave this system. Kethmar's mind raced. His training said to fight. A Zephrian Admiral never surrendered, but his experience said to run. The tactical situation was hopeless. 3,000 enemy ships against 200, and the humans had chosen the battlefield. They knew every hiding spot, every weapons platform, every advantage. Sir, his weapons. Officer called out. Multiple human ships are locking targeting systems on us. Energy readings are off the charts. Through the viewports, Kethmar could see human ships moving into position. They moved with perfect coordination like a school of fish or a flock of birds. No wasted motion, no confusion. Each ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. How long have you been planning this battle? Kethmar asked. Planning? We have been planning this for 50 years, Chun replied. But we have been preparing for war much longer than that. Humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. We perfected the art of killing long before we reached the stars. The screen showed images from human history. Massive armies clashing on ancient battlefields. Cities burning under aerial bombardment. Weapons that could destroy entire continents. Wars that had consumed their entire planet for decades at a time. Other species developed space travel to explore the universe. We developed it to escape from the hell we had created on our own world. But we brought our knowledge of war with U.S. More human ships appeared on the sensors. These were different from the others, larger, more heavily armed. Their energy signatures were enormous. Those are our dreadnoughts, Chun explained. Each one carries enough firepower to sterilize a moon. We built them specifically to fight species like yours. Species that think conquest is easy. Kethmar watched as 12 massive human warships took positions around his fleet. Each one was larger than his flagship. Each one radiated power that made his sensors scream warnings. You still have time to surrender, Chun offered. Your crews will be treated according to the rules of war. They will be fed, housed, and cared for until this conflict is over. And what happens to the Zephrian Empire? Kethmar asked. Chun's expression hardened. That depends on how smart your leaders are. If they choose to continue this war, we will end it permanently. If they choose peace, we can discuss terms. Warning klaxons began blaring throughout the Zephrian fleet. The sensor operator's voice cracked as he made his report. Sir, human fighters are launching, thousands of them. Small craft poured from the human capital ships like angry insects from a disturbed hive. Each fighter was tiny compared to the massive warships, but there were so many of them that they darkened space itself. Those fighters are piloted by artificial intelligence, Chun said. Each one is as smart as your best pilot and completely fearless. They never get tired. They never make mistakes. And they never retreat. The human fighters formed up in perfect formations and began moving toward the Zephrian fleet. Their engines left trails of light in the darkness, creating patterns that were almost beautiful to watch. "Last chance, Admiral," Chun said. "Surrender now or watch your fleet die." Kethmer closed his eyes. Everything he had been taught said to fight. A Zephrian warrior never gave up. But everything he could see said that fighting would be suicide. He opened his communication channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Kethmer. Stand down all weapons. Do not engage the humans. That is a direct order." Angry voices immediately filled the communication channels. His captains could not believe what they were hearing. Some demanded clarification. Others asked if the Admiral had been captured. "Sir," Commander Vextel said quietly, "the crew wants to fight. They think surrender is cowardice." "The crew has never seen anything like this," Kethmer replied. "Look at the tactical display. Look at the odds. Fighting now would not be brave. It would be murder." Captain Qian's image nodded approvingly. "A wise decision, Admiral. You have just saved thousands of lives. What happens now?" Kethmer asked. "Now you will power down your weapons and shields. My boarding parties will take control of your ships. Your crews will be transferred to prison facilities where they will be safe and comfortable. And then we wait to see what your empire decides to do next." The process of surrender took several hours. Human boarding craft docked with each Zephrian ship. Teams of human soldiers armed with weapons that looked far more advanced than anything in the Zephrian arsenal took control of the bridges and engineering sections. Kethmer watched as his proud fleet was systematically captured without a single shot being fired. The humans worked with efficient professionalism. They treated the Zephrian crews with respect. Providing food and medical care as needed, a human officer appeared on his bridge. She was smaller than Captain Chun, with dark skin and short black hair. Her uniform was simple but well made. Her weapons looked powerful but were kept holstered. "Admiral Kethmer, I am Commander Torres of the Human Space Force. I will be taking command of your vessel." "I understand," Kethmer replied. "My crew will cooperate fully. Thank you. That will make this easier for everyone." Torres turned to address the entire Zephrian bridge crew. "You are now prisoners of war under human authority. You will be treated fairly and according to our laws. Anyone who cooperates will be housed comfortably. Anyone who causes trouble will be confined but not harmed." One of Kethmer's younger officers stepped forward. "What gives you the right to capture us?" "We are warriors of the Zephrian Empire." Commander Torres looked at him calmly. "You entered our space with a military fleet and declared your intention to conquer us. That gives us every right to defend ourselves. But we are the superior species. We have conquered 17 worlds," Torres smiled sadly. "You conquered 17 species that were not prepared for war. You found one that was. The result speaks for itself." She gestured toward the viewports. Outside, human ships surrounded the captured Zephrian fleet like guards escorting prisoners. The massive human dreadnoughts hung in space like sleeping giants, ready to wake if needed. "Your empire made a mistake," Torres continued. "You assumed that all species would react to invasion the same way. You thought that because others surrendered or fled, we would do the same. But you are just one species," the young officer protested. "We are an empire spanning dozens of star systems. And we are a species that has been preparing for this war since before your empire was born," Torres replied. "Size does not always determine the outcome of a battle. Preparation does. Training does. The will to fight does." She turned back to Admiral Kethmer. "Your fleet will be escorted to a detention facility in our outer system. Your crews will be safe there. As for you, Admiral, you will be coming with me." "Where?" "To Earth. Our leaders want to speak with you. They want to understand your empire's intentions. More importantly, they want you to understand ours." As the Zephrian admiral was led away, Commander Vextel looked out at the human fleet. Thousands of ships filled the space around them. Each one was a masterpiece of military engineering. Each one was crewed by beings who had turned warfare into an art form. For the first time in his life, Vextel understood what it meant to face A superior enemy, the Zephrians had always been the hunters. Now they were the prey. In the distance, more human ships continued to appear. Reinforcements arriving from hidden bases throughout the system. The message was clear. This was not just a defense fleet. This was a demonstration of power. A warning to any other empire that might be watching. Humanity was ready for war. And they were very, very good at it. Admiral Kethmer sat in the passenger compartment of the human transport ship, watching Earth grow larger through the small viewport. He had seen many worlds during his military career, but this one was different. Instead of the peaceful blue and green planet his intelligence reports had described, he saw a fortress world. Massive orbital stations surrounded the planet like a metal ring. Each station was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons and defensive systems. Smaller platforms moved between them in complex patterns, creating an impenetrable barrier around the human homeworld. "Impressive, is it not?" asked Commander Torres, who sat across from him. She had remained professional and courteous during the 3-day journey from the battle site. "How many stations are there?" Kethmer asked. "Around Earth?" "About 2,000. Each one can destroy a fleet the size of yours." Kethmer felt his stomach tighten. 2,000 weapon platforms, each capable of destroying his entire armada. The scale of human military preparation was beyond anything he had imagined. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked. "Because your empire needs to understand what they are facing," Torres replied. "You are not just dealing with another species. You are dealing with a species that has spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war." The transport ship passed through several layers of defenses. At each checkpoint, human patrol craft escorted them, their weapons trained on the transport. Despite the fact that it carried their own people, nothing was left to chance. As they entered Earth's atmosphere, Kethmer saw more evidence of human military thinking. The cities below were not just population centers. They were fortresses. Every building seemed designed to withstand attack. Every street layout looked like it had been planned by military engineers. "Your cities look like military bases," he observed. "They are," Torres confirmed. "Every human settlement is designed to be defended. Every citizen knows how to fight. We learned long ago that there is no such thing as a safe place in war." The transport landed at a facility that looked more like a fortress than a spaceport. Walls stretched as far as Kethmer could see, topped with weapon turrets and sensor arrays. Guards in powered armor patrolled the perimeter, their weapons ready. For instant use. Inside the facility, Kethmer was taken to a conference room. The room was simple but comfortable, with chairs arranged around a large table. Windows looked out onto a courtyard where human soldiers practiced combat drills with fluid precision. 3 humans were waiting for him. The first was an elderly man with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple uniform with many decorations. The second was a middle-aged woman with short brown hair and intelligent eyes. She wore civilian clothes but carried herself like a soldier. The third was a younger man with dark skin and quick movements. His uniform marked him as some kind of technical specialist. "Admiral Kethmer," the elderly man said, standing up. "I am General Harrison, Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces. This is Director Walsh of Human Intelligence and Dr. Kim, our expert on alien technology." Kethmer remained standing. "I am your prisoner. What do you want from me?" "Please sit," General Harrison said, gesturing to a chair. "We want to talk, nothing more. About what?" "About your empire. About your intentions, about what happens next." Kethmer sat down carefully. The chair was designed for human proportions but was surprisingly comfortable. "I assume you want military intelligence, ship designs, troop strengths, battle plans?" "Director." Walsh leaned forward. "We already have all of that information, Admiral. We have been studying your empire for 50 years. We know more about your military capabilities than most of your own officers. Then what do you want?" "We want to understand." "Why?" General Harrison said. "Why does your empire conquer other species? What drives you to expand through violence?" Kethmer was confused by the question. "We are strong, they are weak. It is the natural order. Natural order? Dr. Kim spoke for the first time. Ken, you explain what you mean by that? Strong species dominate weak species. It has always been this way. The Zephrian Empire brings order to chaos. We unite the galaxy under one rule. The three humans exchanged glances. Director Walsh made notes on a small device. General Harrison looked sad. Admiral, the general said slowly, has it ever occurred to you that other species might not want to be united under your rule? What they want does not matter. What matters is what is best for the galaxy. And you believe Zephrian rule is what is best? Of course. We are the most advanced species. We have the strongest military. We have the most experience in governing multiple worlds. Dr. Kim leaned back in his chair. That is an interesting perspective. Tell me, Admiral, what happens to species that resist your rule? They are eliminated. Resistance to the natural order must be removed. Eliminated, you mean killed. If necessary, yes. The room fell silent. General Harrison rubbed his forehead with one hand. Director Walsh stopped taking notes and stared at Kethmore. Dr. Kim shook his head slowly. Admiral, General Harrison said finally, do you understand why we fought you? Because you were too primitive to understand the benefits of joining our empire. No, the general said firmly. We fought you because you came to our home with weapons and threatened to kill us if we did not submit. Any species would fight under those circumstances. Primitive species fight. Advanced species recognize superior strength and submit. Director? Walsh stood up and walked to the window. Admiral, let me show you something that might help you understand. She activated a wall display that showed images from across the galaxy. Kethmore recognized some of the worlds his empire had conquered, but these images were different from the reports he had seen. These are current images from your conquered worlds, Walsh explained. What do you see? Kethmore studied the pictures. He saw cities under Zephrian control. Alien populations going about their daily lives under the watchful eyes of occupation forces. Everything looked orderly and efficient. I see successful integration into the empire, he said. Look closer, Walsh said. The images zoomed in to show individual faces. Alien beings walking through the streets of their own cities. Their expressions were easy to read, even across species barriers: fear, sadness, resignation. They are not happy, Admiral. They are afraid. They do what you tell them to do because they know what happens if they refuse. Order requires discipline. This is not order, General Harrison said, standing up. This is oppression. You have not created unity. You have created a prison. The strong rule the weak. It is the way of the universe. Dr. Kim activated another display. This one showed images of human history. Battles fought across continents. Cities destroyed by weapons of incredible power. Populations fleeing from advancing armies. We know about the strong ruling the weak, Admiral. We have experience with it. For thousands of years, strong humans ruled over weak humans. Do you know what we learned? Kethmore studied the images. Some showed scenes that reminded him of Zephrian conquests. Others showed something different. Weak humans fighting back against strong ones, sometimes losing, sometimes winning. What did you learn? He asked, despite himself. We learned that strength without justice is just another form of weakness. Dr. Kim said, we learned that ruling through fear creates enemies, not subjects. We learned that true strength comes from protecting others, not conquering them. That is why we are so good at war, General Harrison added. We have been fighting against oppression for our entire history. We know how to resist. We know how to fight back. We know how to win. Director Walsh returned to her seat. Your empire has conquered 17 species, but you have not faced anything like humanity before. We are not just another species to be added to your collection. We are the species that specializes in defeating empires like yours. You are one species against an empire of dozens of worlds, Kethmore protested. Yes, General Harrison agreed. One species that has been preparing for this war for 50 years. One species that knows every weakness in your military doctrine. One species that has built an entire civilization around the concept of defeating you. The display changed to show human military installations throughout their space. Shipyards that could build 100 warships per day. Training centers where millions of soldiers learned the art of war. Research facilities developing weapons that made Zephrian technology look primitive. Every human facility you see was built with your empire in mind, Director Walsh explained. Every weapon was designed to fight Zephrian ships. Every strategy was developed to counter Zephrian tactics. Every soldier was trained to kill Zephrian warriors. But why? Kethmar asked. Why prepare for war with us specifically? Because we studied your history, Dr. Kim said. We watched how you operated. We saw the pattern. Conquer the weak. Eliminate the strong. Expand without limit. We knew that eventually you would come for us. So we prepared, General Harrison continued. We turned our entire species into a weapon designed for one purpose, to stop you. Kethmar looked around the room at the three humans. They spoke calmly, almost conversationally, about building their entire civilization around the goal of destroying his empire. It was the most terrifying thing he had ever heard. What happens now? He asked. That depends on your empire, Director Walsh said. If they choose to continue this war, we will finish it permanently. And if they choose peace? Then we can discuss terms, General Harrison said. But understand this, Admiral. The galaxy has changed. Your empire will never again be the strongest military force. That position now belongs to humanity. What terms would you offer? First, immediate withdrawal from all conquered worlds. Second, reparations to the species you have oppressed. Third, complete disarmament of your military forces. Fourth, submission to a galactic council that includes representatives from all free species. Kethmar felt dizzy. You want us to give up everything, our empire, our military, our way of life? We want you to stop being a threat to other species, Dr. Kim said. You can keep your own worlds. You can govern yourselves as you see fit, but you cannot continue to conquer and oppress others. And if we refuse? The three humans looked at each other. General Harrison spoke first. Then we will come to your home worlds with fleets that will blot out the stars. We will dismantle your empire piece by piece. We will free every species you have conquered. And we will make sure that the name Zephrian becomes a warning that echoes across the galaxy for 1,000 years. The room fell silent again. Kethmar understood now why Captain Chun had been so confident, why the human soldiers moved with such calm efficiency, why their entire civilization seemed designed for war. They were not just defending their home. They were ending an age of galactic oppression. And they were very, very good at it. I need to send a message to my empire, Kethmar said finally. Of course, General Harrison agreed. But remember, Admiral, this is not a negotiation. This is a surrender. The only question is whether your empire surrenders now or after we destroy it. The message transmission chamber on Earth was unlike anything Admiral Kethmar had ever seen. The room was filled with technology that made Zephrian communications equipment look primitive. Holographic displays showed real-time images of his homeworld, Zephyr Prime. From thousands of light years away, General Harrison stood beside him as technicians prepared the quantum communication link. Remember, Admiral, this is your chance to save your empire. Choose your words carefully. Kethmar nodded, though his hands shook as he activated his personal command codes. Within moments, the familiar face of Supreme Chancellor Vorthak appeared in the hologram. The Chancellor's expression shifted from relief to confusion as he saw the human facility behind his captured admiral. Kethmar, thank the ancestors you are alive. Report on the invasion status immediately. Chancellor, Kethmar began, his voice heavy with defeat. The invasion has failed. The entire fleet has been captured. We were wrong about the humans, completely wrong. Vorthak's 4 eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. You command 200 of our finest warships against a primitive species. They are not primitive, Chancellor. They are the most advanced military force in the galaxy. They have been preparing for war with us for 50 years. The Chancellor's expression hardened. Have they broken you, Kethmer? Are you speaking under torture? General Harrison stepped into view of the transmission. Chancellor Vorthak, I am General Harrison of Human Defense Forces. Admiral Kethmer speaks freely and truthfully. He has been treated with respect and dignity. Vorthak studied the human general with obvious disgust. So this is what defeats Zephrian warriors? A creature that walks on two legs like a primitive beast? This creature commands a military force that captured your entire invasion fleet without losing a single ship, Harrison replied calmly. Perhaps you should reconsider your assumptions about primitives. Where is the rest of my fleet? Vorthak demanded. Safe, Kethmer answered. The humans have taken them as prisoners of war. The crews are being treated well. Prisoners? Vorthak's voice rose to a shriek. Zephrian warriors do not become prisoners. They fight to the death. Fighting would have been suicide, Chancellor. You did not see what I saw. Thousands of human ships, weapons beyond our understanding. Defenses that could stop any attack we might mount. General Harrison activated a display that showed the current positions of human fleets throughout their space. The Chancellor's expression grew more horrified as he saw the true scale of human military might. This is what your admiral faced, Harrison explained. 3,000 combat vessels in the Sol system alone. Another 10,000 ships stationed throughout human space. Orbital weapons platforms that could destroy continents. Manufacturing facilities that can build more ships in a month than your empire produces in a year. Vorthak stared at the displays. This cannot be real. Our intelligence reports showed a peaceful species with minimal defenses. Your intelligence saw exactly what we wanted them to see, Harrison said. We have been planning for this confrontation since we first detected. Your empire 50 years ago? 50 years? Vorthak's voice was barely a whisper. We watched you conquer the Altarians. We studied your tactics when you destroyed the Centauri Republic. We learned from every species you defeated and we prepared. Director Walsh joined them in front of the transmission. Chancellor, we know everything about your empire. Ship designs, military doctrine, economic systems, political structure. We have spent 5 decades studying you. For 50 years, we have been building our military with one goal, Dr. Kim added, appearing on screen, to defeat the Zephrian Empire when you inevitably came for us. Vorthak looked at the 3 humans, then back at Admiral Kethmer. What do they want? Kethmer took a deep breath. Complete surrender, Chancellor. Withdrawal from all conquered worlds. Disarmament of our military forces. Reparations to the species we have oppressed. Never! Vorthak slammed his fist on his command console. The Zephrian Empire does not surrender to inferior species. We will send more fleets. We will mobilize the entire Imperial Navy. General Harrison stepped forward. Chancellor, before you make that decision, let me show you something. The display changed to show human fleets moving throughout the galaxy. Not just defensive formations, but invasion fleets heading towards Zephrian space. While we were talking to your admiral, we were also moving our forces into position, Harrison explained. Right now, human fleets are approaching 17 former Zephrian colony worlds, not to conquer them, but to liberate them. The images showed massive human task forces dropping out of hyperspace near planets that had been under Zephrian control for decades. On each world, the same scene was playing out. Zephrian garrison forces were being surrounded and overwhelmed by human fleets. You are invading our empire? Vorthak gasped. We are ending your empire, Director Walsh corrected. The species you conquered are being freed. The populations you oppressed are being liberated. The threat you represent to galactic peace is being eliminated. On the displays, they could see Zephrian ships surrendering without firing a shot. The garrison commanders, seeing the overwhelming human forces, chose to save their crews rather than fight hopeless battles. How is this possible? Vorthak demanded. Your ships would have to travel faster than light to reach our world so quickly. Dr. Kim smiled grimly. We have been moving ships into position for months, Chancellor. Hidden bases near your borders. Stealth vessels monitoring your communications. We have been inside your empire for years. This is impossible, Vorthak repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. Admiral Kethmore leaned closer to the transmission device. Chancellor, I have seen their ships. I have seen their weapons. I have seen their soldiers. Everything we believed about warfare, they have surpassed. Everything we thought we knew about military technology, they have made obsolete. They are just one species. One species that has been preparing for war longer than our empire has existed, Kethmore replied. Chancellor, they showed me images of their history. They've been fighting wars for 3,000 years. Not conquest wars like ours, but survival wars. Wars where losing meant extinction, General Harrison nodded. We learned to fight by fighting each other, Chancellor. For millennia, humans battled humans in conflicts that would have destroyed weaker species. We survived by becoming very, very good at war. The display showed scenes from human history. Ancient battles with primitive weapons. Medieval sieges that lasted for years. Modern conflicts with weapons that could level cities. Each image showed the same thing, humans fighting with desperate intensity, driven by the knowledge that defeat meant death. We did not develop space travel to explore the universe, Director Walsh explained. We developed it to escape the wars we had created on our own world. But we brought our knowledge of warfare with us to the stars. And when we detected your empire, we knew what was coming, Dr. Kim added. We had seen this pattern before in our own history. A strong power, conquering weaker ones, growing stronger with each victory, eventually coming for everyone. Chancellor Vorthak stared at the images of human military might. His expression showed the dawning realization that his empire had made a terrible mistake. What are your terms? He asked quietly. Immediate cessation of all hostile actions, General Harrison began. Complete withdrawal from all conquered worlds. Disarmament of your military to defensive levels only. Reparations to the species you have oppressed. Submission to a galactic council that will include representatives from all free species. And if we refuse? Then we will continue our current operations until your empire no longer exists, Harrison said simply. We will free every world you have conquered. We will dismantle every ship in your fleet. We will reduce the Zephrian Empire to its original borders and ensure it never again threatens galactic peace. You would destroy us completely? If necessary, yes. But we would prefer not to. The Zephrian people are not evil, Chancellor. Your government is, your military doctrine is, your imperial ambitions are. But your people could live peacefully if they chose to. Director Walsh activated another display. We have been in contact with resistance movements on your conquered worlds, Chancellor. Did you know that every species you defeated has been planning their liberation? They have been waiting for someone strong enough to help them fight back. The images showed alien populations celebrating as human ships arrived. Former slaves throwing off their chains. Conquered peoples reclaiming their freedom. It was happening on world after world throughout the Zephrian Empire. They welcome us as liberators, Walsh continued, because we are not coming to conquer them, we are coming to free them. Chancellor Vorthak closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he looked older, defeated. How long do I have to decide? 12 hours, General Harrison replied. After that, we assume you have chosen to fight, and we will act accordingly. And what guarantee do I have that you will honor these terms? The same guarantee you gave to the 17 species you conquered, Admiral Kethmore said bitterly. The word of the victor, but General Harrison shook his head. That is not how humans operate, Chancellor. We will honor our agreements because that is who we are. We do not conquer. We do not oppress. We fight only to protect. If you surrender and abide by the terms, your people will be free to govern themselves on their original worlds, Director Walsh added. We will not occupy you. We will not rule you. We will simply ensure that you never again threaten others. 12 hours, Vorthak said finally. I will need to consult with the Imperial Council. 12 hours, Harrison confirmed. Choose wisely, Chancellor. This is the only offer you will receive. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in silence. Admiral Kethmer sat heavily in a nearby chair, his entire worldview shattered. Will he surrender? General Harrison asked. I do not know, Kethmer replied honestly. The Council has never faced defeat before. They may choose to fight rather than accept the destruction of everything they have built. Then they will learn what every tyrant eventually learns, Director Walsh said. That power built on oppression is ultimately powerless against those who fight for freedom. Admiral Kethmer looked up at the three humans. If they choose to fight, how long will it take you to defeat us? 6 months, Dr. Kim answered without hesitation. We have been planning this campaign for 50 years. We know exactly how long it will take. And how many will die? General Harrison's expression grew sad. Too many, which is why we hope your Chancellor chooses wisdom over pride. In the distance, alarms began to sound. Not warning alarms, but departure signals. Throughout human space, the greatest military force in galactic history was preparing to move. In 12 hours, they would either accept a Zephrian surrender, or begin the final campaign that would end the age of galactic tyranny forever. The choice belonged to Chancellor Vorthak. But the outcome was no longer in doubt. Surrender or destruction? Surrender or justice, General Harrison said firmly. We will not allow tyrants to prey on the weak. Chancellor Vorthak closed his eyes and sat back in his throne. The weight of his empire's history pressed down on him, centuries of conquest. Millions of lives lost in wars of expansion. Entire species enslaved or destroyed. I'm curious about one thing, he said without opening his eyes. Why did you wait 50 years? You could have stopped us at any time during our expansion. Why allow us to conquer 17 worlds? The question hung in the air like an accusation. General Harrison exchanged glances with his colleagues before answering. Because we were not ready, he admitted. 50 years ago, we were still learning how to work together as a unified species. We were still building our technology and our military doctrine. We needed time to become strong enough to guarantee victory. So you allowed 17 species to suffer under our rule while you prepared? Yes, Harrison said simply. And that is a burden we will carry forever. But we learned from our own history that fighting before you are ready to win leads to defeat. And defeat would have meant that more species would suffer, not fewer. Director Walsh stepped forward. We made the hardest decision any species can make, Chancellor. We chose to wait until we could save everyone instead of trying to save some and failing. And now you can save everyone? Now we can end the age of galactic conquest forever, Dr. Kim said. Your empire was the strongest military force in the galaxy. If we can defeat you, no other species will dare to follow your example. Chancellor. Vorthak opened his eyes and looked around at his advisors. Some still urged him to fight. Others had already accepted the inevitable. The old order was ending. The question was whether it would end with surrender or destruction. If I surrender, he said slowly, what happens to me personally? You will be tried for war crimes, General Harrison said without hesitation. The species you conquered have the right to justice, and if I am found guilty, that will be up to the galactic court we intend to establish. Representatives from all free species will participate in the trial. I could be executed, you could be. That is the price of the choices you have made. Vorthak nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come eventually. Every tyrant in history had faced the same choice in the end, die fighting or face justice. And my people? The ordinary citizens of the Zephrian Empire? They will be free to build a new government based on peace instead of conquest, Director Walsh assured him. We have no quarrel with your people, only with your government's actions. Very well, Chancellor Vorthak said finally, I surrender. The words echoed through the communication chamber like a thunderclap. Admiral Kethmer felt something inside his chest loosen for the first time in weeks. His empire was finished, but his people would survive. I formally surrender the Zephrian Empire to human authority, Vorthak continued. I order all military forces to stand down immediately. I accept responsibility for the crimes committed by our government. I submit to galactic justice. General. Harrison nodded gravely. Your surrender is accepted, Chancellor. Military operations against Zephrian forces will cease immediately. Your people will be treated fairly and with dignity. Across the galaxy, the news spread at the speed of light. On every world, human commanders received the same message. The war was over. The Zephrian Empire had surrendered unconditionally. On the liberated worlds, alien populations celebrated in the streets. After decades of oppression, they were finally free. On Zephrian worlds, the population reacted with shock and confusion. Their mighty empire had fallen without firing a shot. In the communication chamber on Earth, Admiral Kethmer watched as history changed forever. The age of galactic conquest was over. The age of galactic cooperation was about to begin. What happens now? He asked. Now we build something better, General Harrison replied. A galaxy where species work together instead of fighting each other, a galaxy where the strong protect the weak instead of preying on them. And if someone tries to build another empire, then they will face the same choice your Chancellor just faced, Director Walsh said. Surrender or face the united opposition of every free species in the galaxy. Admiral Kethmer looked out through the chamber's windows at the Earth below. A world that had nearly destroyed itself through war, but had learned to channel its violent nature toward protection instead of conquest. Will it work? He asked. Can species really live together in peace? Dr. Kim smiled. We are about to find out, Admiral. For the first time in galactic history, we are about to find out. The transmission to Zephyr Prime ended, leaving the chamber in peaceful silence. Outside, human ships began standing down from combat alert. The greatest military operation in galactic history was over. The future was just beginning. In systems. Across the galaxy, former enemies began the long process of building something unprecedented, a galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. It would not be easy, it would not be perfect. But for the first time in millennia, it would be free. And watching over it all, ready to defend that freedom against any threat, stood humanity. The species that had turned the art of war into the science of peace. The 12 hours passed like a lifetime. Admiral Kethmer sat in his quarters on Earth, watching news feeds from across the galaxy. On every Zephrian world, the same scene was playing out. Human fleets had arrived and were waiting in orbit. Not attacking, not bombarding, just waiting. The humans had positioned their forces with surgical precision. Every important Zephrian world had human ships overhead. Every military base was surrounded. Every fleet was outnumbered 10-1. It was the most perfectly executed military operation in galactic history. General, Harrison entered the quarters without knocking. His face was grim. It is time, Admiral. The 12 hours are up. Kethmer followed the general to the communications chamber. The same technicians were at their stations, maintaining the quantum link to Zephyr Prime. The holographic display showed the Imperial Palace, where Chancellor Vorthak sat on his throne surrounded by his advisors. The Chancellor looked like he had not slept. His usually perfect uniform was wrinkled. His eyes were red with exhaustion. The proud leader of the greatest empire in the galaxy now looked like a broken old man. Chancellor, General Harrison said as the connection stabilized, your time is up. What is your decision? Vorthak stared at the human general for a long moment. Behind him, his advisors whispered urgently among themselves. Some urged him to fight. Others begged him to surrender. The Chancellor ignored them all. Before I answer, Vorthak said slowly, I want to understand something. You claim to fight for freedom. You claim to protect the weak. But you have built the most powerful military force in galactic history. How do I know you will not become what we became? General Harrison considered the question carefully before answering. Because we have been what you became, Chancellor. In our history, humans have built empires through conquest. We have oppressed the weak and enslaved the different. We know where that path leads. Director Walsh stepped into view. We fought wars that consumed our entire world, Chancellor. Wars that nearly destroyed our species. We learned that true strength comes not from conquering others, but from protecting them. Pretty words, Vorthak replied bitterly. But words are easy, actions are harder. What happens when your empire grows strong? What happens when other species begin to seem weak and primitive to you? Dr. Kim joined the conversation. We have already answered that question, Chancellor. We encountered 17 species that you had conquered, all of them weaker than us, all of them helpless against our military might. Do you know what we did? What? We freed them. Every single one. We could have ruled them ourselves. We could have taken their worlds and resources. Instead, we gave them back their freedom. The display changed to show images from the liberated worlds, alien populations celebrating in the streets, former slaves destroying the symbols of Zephrian rule, ships carrying Zephrian occupying forces away from worlds they would never see again. This is happening right now on every world your empire conquered, Director Walsh explained. Human forces are overseeing the withdrawal of Zephrian troops and the restoration of local governments. Chancellor Vorthak watched the images with growing amazement. You are giving up control of 17 star systems? We never wanted control, General Harrison said. We wanted freedom. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone. But those worlds could make you rich. Their resources could fuel your expansion. We have our own resources, Chancellor. We do not need to steal from others. Admiral Kethmer spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. Chancellor, they showed me their manufacturing capabilities. They can build more ships in a month than we can in a year. They do not need to conquer worlds for resources. They can create everything they need. How is that possible? Dr. Kim activated another display. Automation, Chancellor. Artificial intelligence. Technology that allows machines to do the work that requires slaves in your empire. We do not need to oppress others because we have freed ourselves from the need for manual labor. The images showed vast automated factories in space. Machines, building ships, weapons, and habitats without any organic supervision. Robot miners extracting resources from asteroids. Artificial intelligences managing complex systems that would require thousands of workers in the Zephrian Empire. We learned to make machines serve us instead of making other species serve us, Director Walsh explained. It is more efficient and more moral. Chancellor Vorthak stared at the displays in wonder. Your entire civilization is automated? The labor is automated, General Harrison corrected. The decisions are still made by humans. We learned the difference between using tools and becoming slaves to power. And you would share this technology with us? If you choose peace, yes. We will help you convert your empire from one based on conquest to one based on cooperation. The Chancellor was quiet for several minutes, processing everything he had seen and heard. Finally, he looked directly at Admiral Kethmer. Kethmer, you have seen their military strength firsthand. In your professional opinion, what would happen? If we chose to fight? Admiral Kethmer met his Chancellor's gaze steadily. We would lose, Chancellor, completely and utterly. They have more ships, better weapons, superior tactics, and 50 years of preparation. Our entire fleet would be destroyed within weeks. Weeks? If we were lucky, more likely days. Vorthak turned back to the humans. And if I surrender? If I accept your terms? What guarantee do I have that you will not change your minds later? The same guarantee that any species has, General Harrison replied. The knowledge that we are watching? Chancellor, the galaxy has changed forever. No species will ever again be able to build an empire through conquest. We will not allow it. You would police the entire galaxy? We would protect the entire galaxy, Director Walsh corrected. Any species that chooses peace will be left alone to develop as they wish. Any species that chooses conquest will face the same choice you face now.